It was in North Augusta and one Burke County.
What?
Didn't actually touch down to the ground.
But
that
that's
was
both
a
our
pilot.
places.
But they did see a tornado, I think, in Old Lexington, South Carolina.
Did it? Yeah.
No,
Did it hurt
it's not.
anybody?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Shit.
Yeah, that thing moved through pretty quickly.
All right, Chief. We're not gonna hold you long. I think we sent out the actual, some of the questions that we're gonna talk about. Of course, I've told everybody this is just a meeting to discuss or to look at any efficiencies that we can gain, any respective changes, anything like that, and to kind of familiarize ourselves better with everybody's operations.
All right.
We can, I'm assuming everything is in here
It
already
is.
tabbed out, so.
Everything is in there, and hopefully I'm able to touch on each one of those points as we kind of go through this.
All right, so you can
presentation.
walk us through your organizational chart and
Sure.
the functional areas, which probably should be pretty clear to us as fire, but.
Yes. So, just a little bit of history. You know, the department was developed and formed back in 1886. It actually started prior to that. 1798 is the beginning, where they began with volunteers. The first pay came in 1808 with the first ladder in the city of Augusta in 1882, and then 1886, the first paid fire department. So I won't take you through the whole history, but it's very interesting in how originally when they created fire stations here in Augusta, they were really deemed as separate departments throughout the city.
Each station was its own
Yeah,
department.
and of course, you know, you had the separation with city departments and then county. And then, of course, you know, in
Right.
'96 where the merger happened.
Yep.
Yeah. So at a glance, 19 fire stations. Out of all these, station 14, 9, and 13 are our oldest. And a part of our SPOS request to replace those stations, rebuild and replace. 14, actually, that station is sized as such as that we really can't put regular fire trucks in it because it's so small. The fire truck that's housed out there is a smaller unit based on the size of that station. So definitely there's an opportunity to increase
Now, which
there.
stations are we talking about?
So station 14, so you look
Okay,
third from the left, that
Mhm.
kind of tab, that's 14. And then the third column, second one down.
Oh, the second one down.
down
Okay.
is, that is station 9, station 13, I'm sorry, and then the one below it is station 9.
okay.
So those three. 335 authorized positions in suppression. We're at 375 total with 88 open. And I'll talk a little bit more about those open positions. So our org chart. As you can see, the top of our org chart is comprised of myself, the different administrative support areas, the PIO, and our accreditation data analyst specialist is up there. So I start all the way over to the left with operations. We've made significant changes in operations since my tenure here. Originally, so I'll preface this by saying, back in 2000, I became a lieutenant myself. I've been through all the ranks in the fire service, but at that time, I began going out to other departments throughout the country, getting an idea of the organizational structure. I've been instrumental in promotional testing all throughout my whole career. So I've been around to a lot of fire departments, seeing how they're structured, and I've applied some of those best practices here. So we made changes. Originally, there were 2 battalion chiefs for 19 fire stations, which is way outside the span of control. The third was the shift commander position, and he was the shift commander / battalion chief. So just not, again, industry best practices. So we created an additional battalion chief, and we'll create the 4th battalion chief that we've already created for the new fire station, reducing that span of control to 5 amongst each of those, for 5 stations for each battalion chief. Couple of things we've done also in that area, staffing. We've gone to electronic staffing. We started that last year. It's completely automated. As you can imagine, with 300 some employees, staffing is crucial with the fire service. It is completely automated now. They receive all of that. They receive texts on their cell phone, station assignments. If they need to go somewhere, they receive texts. They need to request leave, they can text, send it through Slate, and the Image Trend is our software that we're using. So our scheduling is completely automated. As you know,
I don't want you to underscore that. That's a big win in terms of efficiency.
It really
Big win.
is, because we were doing paper reports.
Yeah.
Again, this is not industry best standards
Yeah.
or best practices, and so it's actually completely automated. I can actually show you real quick. So this is our Image Trend, our Slate software. I can see every unit, every person assigned to it. Over here, I can look at who's off, who called in sick, who's on vacation, everything. I can see it right here in real time.
That's good.
So all of that is completely automated. So in terms of, if I'm a firefighter at a station 5 and next shift I got to go work at 10, well, I'll get a text to that. Let me know ahead of time. They have calendars that's associated to this, so they know where they need to be for the following shift. So that's all completely automated.
Is that common for them to move between stations?
Yes.
And the reason why it's so big, because you had staff persons, that's really, that became their full-time job almost.
Yeah, of
Managing the
course. So
schedules.
battalion chief, I remember being a battalion chief myself.
Yeah.
I would spend at least the first 2 hours doing staffing for the day. And then you spent another 2 hours doing staffing for payroll. And I remember those days well, and that was the reason why we went to this, is to kind of give that time back to them. And so they can utilize that supervising and doing some other things that they need to be doing throughout the day. The next section is training. We've had some significant strides in training. When I got here, we had the chief training officer, we had an EMS coordinator, and 1 instructor. That's it. That's all our training division was comprised of. For a department that size, again, that is not industry best practices. So we've branched that out. We've created additional training lieutenants on the EMS side and the fire side. So it's leveled out. We need to do more in that area, but we're moving along, we're progressing. So again, an EMS officer that's equivalent of a captain. We got a fire captain and 2 EMS training lieutenants, 2 fire training lieutenants. So increased staff in that area to increase efficiency. Implemented new fire officer program that's new to Augusta that started last year. We introduced the engine operator course that started, and for 2025, we're gonna implement a ladder operator course to really standardize that training for all of our firefighters. The next area is technical services. Technical services kind of house training, emergency vehicle, and logistics. All of that's housed under technical services.
Is that Chief Lively?
Chief Beasley.
Chief Beasley.
Chief Lively has operations. And so our vehicle maintenance shop, and you'll see, I'll talk through kind of improvements we've made in all of these areas. We've had some challenges in terms of maintenance of our vehicles and such. Those KMEs that we have, they're a challenge all in and of itself, because they've been an issue from day one. They're constantly breaking down.
What is KME? I'm sorry.
It's a type of truck that was purchased.
Okay.
They were, yeah.
A pumper or
Both,
aerial?
both,
Okay.
both.
Okay.
And every one of them constantly break down. I mean, constant.
While we're talking about the vehicles,
Mhm.
Chief, you know, it came up at the last meeting, you were not there, but Chief
Mhm.
Lively was there,
Mhm.
in regards to the benefits of having, or is it a benefit of having, you guys have your own fleet
Mhm.
maintenance?
I think it's an extreme benefit, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been in a system where it was the city maintenance, and you can have someone working on the fire truck one minute, and they're working on the garbage truck the next minute. And to have our own dedicated maintenance crew working on just fire trucks is a huge benefit. And it's not seen in other departments, but I think it's a huge benefit. Look, we look to fleet to see if they can do these repairs for us before we outsource or went out. They couldn't.
So
They
the
don't
problem
have
that
the
they have, I think the question is about the outsourcing. I think, I'm assuming that one of the items that we had
Yeah.
required you guys to outsource.
Yeah,
it.
yeah, so
that
we're
was-
sending it out, and I actually talked to Commissioner Guilfoyle. I was
Okay.
watching, even though I
Okay,
was in the
okay, I
meeting.
figured you were.
I was watching, and as soon as it was over, I gave him a call to try to answer. Chief Lively really couldn't answer all his questions, so I was able to share with him, this is just a one-time thing. We've got 4 trucks with complete engine rebuilds. That's a lot. And they sit and they just wait on one truck to get done, then the next truck, and it just takes time. So this is an effort to get them all fixed, and we should not have to do that anyway.
Okay.
This
So
is
it's
just
not a comment?
No,
Okay,
no,
okay.
This is just a one-time thing as a way to kind of help our maintenance staff. There's only 4 guys over there working on trucks.
Okay.
That's an issue. When you got over 40 pieces of equipment, there's only 4 positions. You know,
On your side, or?
on our side.
Oh.
Okay.
So I did increase staff over there by 1 person, but that's definitely an area we need to continue to focus on. Another thing I did is took a holistic approach. Leadership was kind of changed last year over there in our maintenance division. We have a new lead tech. We kind of changed some things around, and I think we'll reap the benefits of that moving forward. So, logistics. So our logistics is where a lot of our money is spent in terms of cleaning supplies, small repairs for the station, all of our logistics, everything that we purchase to support the operations of our fire stations, all that goes through the logistics, our turnout gear, firefighting equipment, all of that's in that area. So one of the things we did is move to an electronic system of tracking for all of that equipment, for all of that spending. We didn't do that before, but we now have an electronic system through Target Solutions, where we can actually see and track and look at trends in terms of spending for our logistics items.
Do y'all maintain inventory in a central location? Is it spread out to
Yes,
stations?
it's in a
or-
central location.
Okay, is
So
it under this group?
It
to
is
do that?
logistics. So if you ever go out to Tobacco Road, there's an old building. It's pretty old. We're really looking to move that facility over the south side once we acquire that. But that's where it's housed. So everything that we purchase in terms, again, down to cleaning supplies, all comes into that location and is distributed out. Through
Where is that
location.
at, Chief?
It's on Tobacco Road. So if you're coming from Deansbridge and you're going out Tobacco Road, it's about 2 miles down on the left. We've got there's the logistics, it's like an old garage. It's like a 2-bay garage. It's a very old building. And then right next to it is our investigative office. Our
Okay.
investigators go.
And the station maintenance, I'm sorry.
It's done all through logistics.
Okay, so does Central Services do any maintenance on fire stations?
No.
It's all
No,
for y'all?
no. I've reached out to them for support. So if it's something that, they can do that we can't do, I've worked with Ron and asked them if they could support us. But for the most part, we're self-sufficient.
Okay.
So inspector, so the fire marshal's office, that's the next area. That's our community risk reduction area, and it houses inspectors, the public education specialist, which is a new position I created. You know, I often tell people we do a great job of, you know, when the bell rings, we respond. But what we don't do a good job of is trying to prevent the bell from ringing in the first place. And that's our focus is on education and prevention. So created that position, and it's been going well. It's only one person. We definitely need to increase that.
That's about 2 years now, right?
Mhm,
Okay.
yes. Some of the things that we like to do in terms of the inspection is move to electronic plan review. We got that capability. I'm not sure why it hasn't turned on, but we're ready for it. Our inspectors, our fire marshal, we need to move that. We find that picking up plans, bringing them here, there's projects I may get a call about that hasn't been given to us. You know, taking that human error away from that piece, I think will bode well for not just us, but for the city.
Now, that's the same thing that we were talking about with planning and development.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we're ready. Our folks are trained on it. It's already there. I'm just not sure why we hadn't turned the switch on, but we're ready for it. I think it'll be instrumental.
Yeah.
We're also looking at some different software. It's called a compliance engine. What that does is, and it's free to us, there's no cost to us. We may go to that this year for 2025.
What's the name of it?
It's a compliance engine.
Oh,
So there's different types. What they do is they monitor fire protection systems. So sprinkler system, fire alarm systems is monitored through this software. And anytime, and the fire code requires annual inspections of those systems. So anytime someone misses an inspection, don't do an inspection, that system gets what we call a yellow tag or red tag, means it falls out of compliance. We get notified, and we immediately respond with an inspection. So it's just another way of ensuring the safety of our citizens through regular inspections. Where we would not have been notified that this system is down, this would help notify us. So that's something we're looking at for this year. Investigations, we made some changes there. So originally, that office comprised of a lead, which is the captain, and 2 investigators. What we've done with that area is we've added a position. So now there's the lead and 3 investigators, and we've taken them off of a 8-hour shift and put them on a 24-hour shift. What that does is every fire that we respond to also gets an investigator automatically. They'll be there. It increases our numbers with ISO, and you'll have an investigator on the scene with every fire call. And then when those men and women, when they're off, they're off. Working on 8-hour days, they have to rotate being on call. And when you're on call as an investigator, I've been there. It changes your life at home because you can't go to certain places. You got to be in the area, those type of things. So now they're on 24-hour shifts. So when they're off with their families. So that was really a good initiative. We implemented that. Public Integrity and Accountability Unit, that is new. We implemented that in 2023. Our investigators are certified and trained in internal affairs investigations. So that's one of those offices where you turn it on when you need it for internal investigations, and allows for an independent person to do investigations whenever we need to. And then the last section is EMA. I know that that section will be separated out from us. Is there any updates on that? Have we gotten anywhere?
Not that I know of. They would send all the applications to the mayor's office, since that's where it falls.
Has there been any thought to where they're gonna be housed and what office they're gonna work out of? Or? Okay.
Let me ask you something while we're talking about that. Have you made any headway in regards to the inspection for Southside?
Yeah, so we reached out to JLA first. They gave us a quote of $21,000. I just felt like that was way too high. We looked at the scope of work, fire and life safety inspections. We don't need them to do that. We can do that ourselves. We reached out to another company. I can't recall the name. They could do it, and the price tag was around $7,000 or $8,000, but there were certain things they couldn't do.
Oh,
So we've reached out to a third company, and hopefully we'll get what we need. If not, we'll just go back to JLA and try to take some of that. I mean, we have MEP inspectors in planning that we can utilize for some of this. So that's kind of where we are.
okay.
Hopefully within the next week or two, we'll have that completed.
Okay.
Authorized positions is the next page. It takes a look at you know what positions we have filled, what our vacancies are. The largest of which you'll see at firefighter 2 and firefighter 1. Right now, we have about 19 candidates that have completed the CPAT, which is the physical part of the assessment. So that next class is really good. 19 is really good. I think it's probably going to be the largest class since I've been here. So that's where we are. That start date, I believe, is after the Masters in April for the next class.
How long is their program?
So 3 months for fire, 3 months for EMS. Actually, EMS is probably was about 6 months. And the reason that is because we take our firefighters, right now they're being trained higher than any in the history of our department. I think we announced that 2 years ago. Because we're training them to firefighter 2 and to advanced EMT. So we're going a step further. But we have a class now. Last year we implemented the first in the history of Augusta, a hybrid advanced EMT program. So after the 3 months, they went out into the station and they're able to do advanced EMT online. So we have a hybrid program. And we're offering that, you know, free of charge to our firefighters. We have a class of 20 that included the last class and some of our firefighters in the field. And so they're testing now. I pulled that program from Columbus. They've had success with it. And I know there's some other departments here in the state that's looking at it. So I think it's going to be instrumental for us to not only cut that time down and get our folks into the station, but to offer that online is, I think, is a huge benefit for us. So the next page talks about our responses. It really gives you a breakdown of our call volume. There's two things that really highlight from this chart. The number of working fires, 238, which is an increase over 2023. That's something we need to focus on. Why are we having more working fires? In 2023, there were 191. So there's a significant increase.
Oh, yeah.
It's not uncommon for that to increase, but we need to kind of really deep dive and look at why, which is where I think we need to bolster up prevention and getting out and getting the word out about home fires. Another highlighting or amplifying stat in that is medical responses. Medical responses in 2023 were over 13,000. That's a significant amount of medical calls that we didn't have to run last year. And one of the things that we implemented was we no longer, with Central EMS, we no longer go to A and B calls, which are those low acuity calls. That, along with the performance of Central, I think is direct contributor of that. Because it overall reduced our call volume. We were over 26,000 calls in 2023.
And now it's 9,000 something?
Yes, 23,907. And so that's preparedness, that's maintenance on our engines and trucks, fuel costs, all of that is wrapped around in that. So that's trending in a good way. But the fire calls is not, so we got to figure out why. Let's see. Any questions about any of that before we move on?
I was, one question I would ask you is how you felt about Central in general process.
Yeah, it's great. It's been going great.
Were you
Really
here
has.
when we had, the other company?
Yes.
Now, big difference, big improvement?
Well, I'll tell you this. There were times where our firefighters spent 2 to 3 hours waiting on a transport. Yes.
Mm.
2 to 3 hours. Imagine that. We had citizens that were making life decisions to, instead of waiting, to transport on their own. I'm tired of waiting. I'm gonna put them in the car and take them myself. And we had fire crews that were actually following people to the hospital and just telling them, if it gets worse, just pull over. We'll start treating and following. It was, it was challenging. I don't often stay up at night, but that was one that it was a challenge. And some days there were only 1 or 2 units in this entire city. Yeah, so night and day. Since they've been there, we didn't have performance measures in the previous contract. There were no performance measures, so there was no expectation of needing to be there. We have those in Central's contract, and we have not had to find them once for response times. They've been meeting, so it's night and day. The next page just kind of talks about our specialized divisions. We talked about operations, we talked about technical services and community risk reduction. Some new programs we've got going on in fire safety education in terms of focusing on our seniors. We've got a new revamped, it's called Alert. It's aging loved ones, education. We're also doing Juvenile Fire Center. We're going to partner with Judicial Court for Juvenile Fire Center program. That program is ready to go. I actually talked with Judge Saunders on Saturday about that program. So all of our inspectors, investigators, they're all certified as being able to teach that program, and they're certified managers, so we're ready to go with that. Make sure I know I'm leaving stuff out. Training division, we've talked about new development. So this year we're working to implement a new professional development program where we're going to revamp all of the requirements from firefighter through deputy chief. All of the requirements to achieve those ranks will be changed. There'll be more added to it, but I think it'll just increase the overall knowledge and skills of our workforce. So we're revamping all of that this year. We're also adding a ladder operator course, which I mentioned. I think it's poignant because we talked about our new partnership with Augusta Tech and our firefighters coming in, and how that's going to affect the overall. I mean, that's going to be a huge impact on this organization well into the future, to have firefighters coming in that are only 15 credit hours away from an associate's degree just by graduating our program. That's going to be huge for us. And so along with that, increasing the level of skill with all of our firefighters, requiring more out of each rank, more classes, more certifications out of all ranks. I think it just works hand in hand. Core functions, we talked about that, our core functions, fire suppression, EMS, community risk reduction. I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. So as you probably can see, I'm a data person. I think, I like what I used to call data-driven decision-making, but I call it now data-informed decision-making. Because the data really tells us a lot, and that's why we look at every aspect that we can look at. We do that. And in our monthly report, we send all this information to you each month. But there's really a reason. We're not just looking at it, but we're able to make decisions based off of it. And I think that's really important. I know this is very small, so I'll, be glad to send you this electronically. But one of the things that really stand out, and one of the areas we're focusing in on as a priority this year, is response times. We've seen from 2023, we've seen a significant drop in the response times. Right now, it's, I know this is hard to read, but it's 7 minutes, 5 seconds on average. So when the bell rings and our team is notified, on average, they get to the scene in just over 7 minutes. That's huge. In 2023, it was 8 minutes, 43 seconds. It's a significant drop. And we're gonna drill down to see if we can figure out why, but one of the things that we do is we measure PSAP time. We measure that. We measure the time that it takes for firefighters to receive that call and for them to get on the truck and leave. That's called turnout time. There's an NFPA standard of 80 seconds for that. And right now we're at 1 minute, 23 seconds, which is good, but we can do better. I think we can beat that time. So we share that with the crews. Each month they get their turnout times, they get their response times, and it kind of builds a healthy competition. One station, and we have it broken out by shift, by station and by shift. So if A shift at station 18, if their response times is less than B shift at 18, then those officers can kind of compete with one another. And I think it's good. I think it's made a difference because we've definitely seen a decrease.
I like that.
We talked about authorized positions, which this is something we review monthly. The large portion of that would be the firefighter positions. And one of the things we implemented, I think we started in last year. It's the first year we started this. So in our history, we've only taken firefighters that are not trained, right? We've brought them in, taken them through a full academy. But there's a group of folks out there that are already trained. And they come here, but they have to go through the whole academy.
They have to?
Not anymore.
Oh.
Because we implemented an accelerated program where we will hire firefighters that are already trained. We take them through a 6-week program and we put them in the station. So that is our accelerated program. So it's helped us in kind of bringing those numbers down and not having those vacancies. And as I mentioned, we've got 19 potentially for this next class. So we talk about priorities. That second page in the priority section was supposed to be the first page because each one of our sections, I've tasked them with their own priorities. And so each one of those sections, they have their own goals that I've tasked them with. And from those goals, we've created 3 main priorities that we're gonna look at. Response times, prevention inspections, and EMS call efficiency. Now this is gonna be an interesting category because we've never actually looked at it. But this is measuring the amount of time that we actually spend on an EMS call. I think if we can reduce that, it just makes us more efficient, it makes us more available for the next call. So that's something, that's a new area that we're gonna be taking a look at to see, just to increase our overall efficiency. But those are our three main focus areas. And one of the things we're doing in terms of inspection and trying to increase that number, we purchased technology through tablets last year. We haven't implemented this, but this will roll out this year for our fire crews to do inspections, to do business inspections. So the state mandates each year that certain occupancies get inspected every year. But your small businesses, they never get inspected. They never receive, the only inspection they receive is when they open. After that, they can go 20 years without a fire inspection. And so we're gonna have our fire crews do those inspections. We call them walkthrough inspections. They're not full-fledged inspections, but just walkthrough, familiarization and that sort of thing, getting out into community, meeting the citizens, the business owners in their community, making contact with them, doing FaceTime, and just sharing some things to make them safer.
Geez, at a sub-level, are there particular hotspots in the city where you have more calls than other?
Yes, fire calls. So we call those heat maps,
Heat
which
maps.
we produce.
Okay.
And it's based on the data. And we can pinpoint areas in the city. So when we see clusters, we go out like we did Saturday and do blitz.
Okay.
We do blitz on those neighborhoods. We see clusters in a certain neighborhood where there's a lot of fires. We'll go out and do door-to-door fire prevention and install smoke detectors.
What is your identified spot now that has the most?
We just did, so we mustered at Good Shepherd Baptist Church. That area, all around that is where we were Saturday.
Oh.
So we were out, and what you've seen, we've done that in the past. And the reason we've chosen those areas is because we've had a lot of fires. Now we do fire blitz, what we call after the fire. So if we get a certain type of fire, we'll go out and blitz that neighborhood. But whenever we're with the Red Cross, we're in those areas that are high prone for fires.
Okay.
Revenue, I know that was one of the
Yep.
areas that you looked at. So the fire department is typically not a revenue generating organization, but there are two areas that we do generate revenue in. One of which is ambulance fees, which you see a stark decrease in that because of Central EMS, and plan review. Those are the two areas that we look at in terms of fees. So I know planning has a increase because of the state statute change that's coming in, is that April? So that'll increase our revenue as well in terms of plan review. One of the areas we really need to look at is we're lagging behind planning in terms of inspections and the fees for inspections. We need to take a look at that. They charge differently than we do, but I think that's an area where we can improve in terms of fees.
Do y'all charge directly to
Yes.
during the plan review process? Is that true? Does each agency in the process do their own fees?
Well, when I say we charge directly, we charge the customer. It's all taken in planning. So the intake is in planning, so,
But the rates are set separately?
yes. Well, I take that back. Our rates are set by commission. And so when they change rates, because planning is the intake for all of our fees, when those rates change, our fees change.
Gotcha.
This was one area where in DeKalb County, when I was the fire marshal, I implemented this. There's a state statute that covers this and gives municipalities the ability to implement fees for plan review, and that was one of the areas that I actually implemented as fire marshal in DeKalb. So, of course, you're talking about a much larger system, but it was millions generated from plan review fees in DeKalb. We're kind of getting to the end.
I know.
So, new for the city of Augusta. What does the future look like? And I believe that's being an accredited agency. We are pursuing accreditation through the Center of Public Safety Excellence. There's only 15 departments in the state of Georgia that are accredited. We're looking to be number 16. In through accreditation, all of those things in terms of risk to department, areas of growth, all of that is done through our accreditation process, and we're in the middle of it. So that next page lays out our timeline. We are a registered agency in that process, and we're looking to be able to defend that in March of 2026. And so there's 3 main documents: the community risk assessment, and through that is a robust self-assessment where it looks at the agency, it looks at strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, that SWOT analysis on a very detailed level. It's a very significant review. Typically, it takes most departments a minimum 3 years to go through this process. Though Helene is kind of throwing us off a little bit, but we're still looking at March of 2026. So risk assessment, that standards to cover our documents, and these are pretty robust. I mean, this is almost like a book that we're writing, literally. And so we're gonna look at our performance, we're gonna look at gaps throughout the department, and create programs to shore up those gaps. So it's that real deep dive, that comprehensive look at our agency and what we need to have in place. Another part of that is the strategic plan, which thankfully the commission approved. Our strategic plan, the way I've developed the scope of work of this plan, is really gonna be, other than a consultant just coming in and doing it for us, this is gonna be different. This is more of a leadership training, because I want my chiefs to be able to do this themselves. So they're gonna walk away from this process being able to do all of this themselves. So I really look at it as training, with the core project being the strategic plan. And down to the very lowest firefighter, they will all have input on how we develop the department and really set the roadmap for the next 3 years. So a portion of that is having the elements in it that CPSC will be looking for. And they weigh heavily on community involvement. So that's what our plan will be centered around: community involvement and what our citizens want their fire department to look like in the future. So there's a parallel involvement process that's kind of at the center of it. And so you'll see it when we get to that point, the stakeholder meetings, the stakeholder surveys, getting their input into the process so that we can incorporate what they want to see from us as a department.
Is it a huge effort, Chief? Are you leading it personally? Is there somebody assigned to
So
it?
Sarah, which I hope to introduce you to, I don't know if you've met Sarah Harvey. She is our data analyst
Oh, okay.
and accreditation manager.
Okay.
So she is leading our efforts. So it's a team, it's a team effort. It's all of us. It starts with the core team, with Sarah, the deputy chiefs, and the shift commanders, but the station officers, all of them have, a part to play.
You fought hard for that position, didn't you?
I did. I knew it was needed. I knew it was needed. And again, this is industry best practices.
Yeah.
Is what's happening in other progressive departments around the country. I think that's it. I hope that I've kind of touched on everything in terms of what you're looking for, what the future looks like. I really look to expand on the current progress that we've made. Again, focusing on public education. I think we need to increase staffing in those areas. Training, we need to increase staffing. Operational efficiency. really looking at, as we continue to see results in terms of our response and the operational, I think quick response vehicles is something we need to look at. Having smaller vehicles that respond to some of these calls that could save wear and tear on our larger vehicles. So a quick response, so I was a part of implementing that in DeKalb. We implemented 10 vehicles throughout the county. And you put 2 firefighters on them and you load it up with as much equipment as you possibly can. And, you know, for instance, extrication. So we go to a lot of vehicle accidents. We send ladder trucks to those accidents because they have the tools to pop doors. I know you've heard Jaws of Life, that term. They have those tools on them. Well, we can put some of those tools on a quick response vehicle. And a lot of times it's just them popping a door or something quick. Well, those QRVs can do that and not have that wear and tear on those ladder trucks. So
I thought we looked at that one time.
Commissioner Guilfoyle brought it up early when they first started in his term. And I did a PowerPoint
Yeah, I
presentation
thought I
on
remember
it.
something.
But it's gonna take additional staffing.
Okay.
I think their thought was that this was a vehicle we could put in a station and depending on the call, have firefighters jump off and jump on. That's just not how the program works. But we're gonna need additional staffing to do it. And that's a whole nother conversation in terms of increasing our staffing numbers. But I think there's an opportunity. I do think that millage rate is something that at some point we're gonna be forced to look at.
No, they don't wanna do that.
No, but you know, that half a meal, just a half a meal will get us almost $3 million a year. And you're talking about, so I've done the numbers, you're talking about $50 to $60 per year per citizen.
How much?
They like to hear rollback.
How much?
That word rollback.
Yeah,
How much did you say?
yeah, well, at that time, it was 2.6,
No, but per citizen.
about $50, $60 a year. And that's staffing, that's trucks, that would just support all of our needs. And that's future building, right? That's preparing for the future.
I'm glad you brought up that point because do you have any fire trucks and SPLOST on it?
Yes.
You do?
A
Okay.
lot.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, and based on the approval we just got, I'm gonna go back and look at that and refigure it. It's gonna probably bring that number down a little bit. But, yes, we do have trucks in it.
How much is
That's
it for
the
one
whole-
fire truck, chief?
So the ladder trucks are 2.4. Engines are right at $1 million. And so really got some good news. So the day that that it was approved, was it last Tuesday? Not this past Tuesday, Tuesday before last. I sent the contracts off to Pierce, signed contracts for those 3 units. I got a call the next day. Apparently Pierce had just released their stock list. 2 of our trucks was on it. We were able to grab 2 trucks. Those trucks are already done.
Oh, that's
awesome.
good.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have
That's
them,
awesome.
we're gonna have them by third quarter this year.
That is
That's
awesome.
It's huge.
Yep.
2 of the trucks. The other truck is going into that DAS program. And I believe the next slot for that is September, if I'm not mistaken, but it'll be 1 year.
Oh,
when we get
that's
that.
good though.
Yeah.
the other two.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's huge. And those both were ladder trucks.
From a millage standpoint, just going back to that conversation, I think you mentioned what would be the justification for the millage increase. I think do you have that mapped out in terms of justification?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you think about, now the conversation previously was about that just supporting trucks.
Yes, but
Yeah.
now we're looking at
But
SPLOST.
I think it can support the department. So when you talk about future building and staffing and functional areas that increases operability and increases efficiency, I think it can support both. I think it, in terms of staffing and trucks. I mean, think about it, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. I think SPLOST, just what I've seen, SPLOST is not a good place to buy trucks. If you could be in a position like we're in now, where it was left out
That's
of this
right.
SPOS. SPOS should be for those larger capital projects, station rebuilds, you know, new stations, additional stations, those large projects. But doing that, you can purchase 1 or 2 trucks every year. You'll never need SPOS for trucks.
You always preach that.
Yeah.
You always want to do spots for stations and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's
Stationary.
just a better way of spending taxpayer dollars. But historically, we've always done it
Mhm,
here,
mhm.
through SPOS, which, yeah.
So if we could do it every year, Chief, what are you saying, that we need additional funds to do that every year? If that's what you're.
Oh, we would have to have, we couldn't.
That's what you're talking about, the millage, okay.
Yeah.
That's what the request has been in the past few years, to do a millage rate increase. for
So you can do,
And he's,
which
he's
makes
saying,
sense, I mean,
Yeah,
'cause sometimes that's SPOS,
It's hit or miss.
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, none of the IT projects.
Nothing's
or
guaranteed
Fire
and
department projects were included.
Nothing's guaranteed.
What's the thing about Splotch? You're talking about a 7-year period.
Mm-hmm.
That's stuff like that. You don't want to plan
No,
7 years in advance.
No.
The only thing is, anything resembling a millage increase is
No.
it's like a duck in the
That's-
air.
Yeah.
I mean, what Commissioner Franham say, his whole term, every term was.
Yeah,
Roll
rollback,
back, didn't he
yes,
say
that's
that?
all he
He was
wanted to
proud
do.
of it too.
And,
I mean-
and actually Donna,
He's proud of it.
Yep.
what she pushed last year was a way where there would not be an increase. And they still.
It was offsetting.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
millage looked like he still had to advertise it as an increase, that's
Yeah,
what killed it.
yeah.
I just said you don't have to advertise it, just do it. You know the increase, you're gonna have to get it anyway.
Yeah, I think at some point, the city, as a city, I mean, that conversation is gonna have to be had, I mean, but it's all about political will, right?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah, yeah.
So Chief, how about your standard operating procedures, man? I guess you have to have a standard.
Oh, so I didn't talk about that. So we revamped our policies and procedures. So
Okay.
one of the things that I saw coming into this department, and we did this early on, we had a set of SOPs, we had a set of SOGs,
And SLAs, I think you all had.
and then we had administrative policies, and then we had all these directives that the fire chief, my predecessor, would push out that just clouded everything. So they were held on the in drive. Not every firefighter knew about it. The only time they really looked at it, I believe, is when they got in trouble for something. Then they would go search. You
Or
know?
there was a boy.
Yeah, exactly. So we revamped all of that. We brought in Lexipol. It is totally automated. They actually have deposit procedures on their cell phones. They can click, they can read, they can acknowledge that they've read,
Oh, okay.
receive. Everything is completely automated now. So we've implemented that program, and it's brought everything into 2 areas: policies and procedures. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. It's streamlined. We had a lot of redundancy in our policies, a lot of overlap and conflicting policies, and you know, all of these. Every time somebody get in trouble, the chief was firing off a directive. You know? And it's just cloud. Nobody really knew, you know. Yeah. So, and I allowed. So what we did was we put together a team, a committee of firefighters from every rank. So we had firefighters, captains. Chief Lively kind of oversaw everything, and they went in, they developed it. So I just checked off, signed off, I make no changes, I review it. But for the most part, they developed these new policies and procedures, because they're the ones that are out there responding every day. So Lexipol is interesting because it's made up of firefighters that are attorneys. And the great thing about our policies and procedures, they're based on state law,
Oh, that's good.
and they're updated. And so, interestingly enough, whenever there's a challenge, so if there's a challenge ever to any of our policies, their lawyers will defend it for us. And what most attorneys, when they see Lexipol, they don't even challenge it, because they know it's based on state law. And a part of that is they constantly review and make changes. So each one of those policies have the concurrent state law that's affected, you know, that relates to it and all of that, so.
Lexipol is very prominent nationwide.
It is.
Very prominent. I didn't know that till I went to a conference a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what do you see as your department's biggest strengths, Chief?
You know, again, these are some of the things that we're gonna be reviewing in our, accreditation efforts. I think, response, fires, here in Augusta, they go out. Rarely do we burn houses down to the ground.
Oh.
Rarely do I see that, which is a huge, I think it has to do with our response times. We get there quickly. And so our response, I would say, is our greatest strength operationally.
Okay.
How we respond to when we're called for service.
What about your challenge?
Let's see, our biggest challenge, I would have to say, staffing is always a challenge that we face. This year, ordinarily, we would do one recruit class per year, but this year I'm ramping up. So not only do we have a group that's going through the process, but it's actually open now. We're
Okay.
accepting applications. So the goal is they go to fire school first. After 3 months, they transition to EMS. So what I like to do this year is when that group transitions, have another group to start fire. And that's what we're doing this year.
How's your turnover? Is it?
Attrition is not bad, but it's more so there is an attrition report in there for you to see. It's more so retirements. And we're gonna be faced with a lot of retirements coming up and keeping up with those. We do see some firefighter twos that leave. I think we had 10 last year, but it's mostly attrition through retirements and trying to keep up with that. You know, we're gonna be faced with some challenges, which is the reason why I'm actually doing 2 classes this year. We've got some retirements coming. This summer's gonna be a bit tough for us. This class was delayed by Helene, so we would have already started already and would have seen them out prior to the summer, so it's gonna be a bit of a challenge for us this summer. I know our overtime numbers are gonna be high. But,
Y'all's always high, Chief.
yeah, we go over budget in overtime every year. Yeah, you know, interesting enough, the largest portion of that is through the high cycle pay, float pay.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, float pay is the majority of our overtime.
I don't know what that is.
So with our shift work, the 212 hours that they have to do, so we're on a 53-hour work week in operation. So each cycle, some cycles there's high, medium, low, and during the high cycle they get paid extra. It's about the best way I can put it.
And is that how they had it where you came from?
No, so in the cab, the way they got around that is they would give a Liberty Day. So each month you got one shift off, and they would just level out. So if they were in the low cycle, they would level up. If they were in the high cycle, that shift off prevented under FLSA.
So that would save,
So it's called
lots of overtime.
Yeah, it does.
but you probably have a fight here.
Oh yeah, because they like
So,
that pay.
there you
So
go. I
so
know.
we mirror the city of Atlanta in that they do that. Whether
Okay.
you get 3 different checks, each month your check is a little different, and that high cycle check is more than another. But yeah, they like that. They like that extra pay. I like the time off. I think the time off is valuable. Maybe something we can look at, but they won't like it.
The culture.
Yeah, that'll be a fight.
Yeah.
Can be done
She'll
though.
be getting emails left and right.
Oh yeah.
Chief,
Calls.
yeah, they be asking Chief, is he ready to retire?
Yeah.
We're not going to do that, Chief.
Yeah,
We're not going to go out there and try to retire. Okay. Well, we talked about okay. I think that's about it, Chief, because you told us about some of the changes. So that's it.
But Chief, I think one challenge I think you may have left out is protecting your firefighters from like cancer
Yes, yes. So, yeah, that is a challenge. So we made significant strides. I mean, there's a whole lot that we've done. You know, we got the grant last year for cancer screenings.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our firefighters, including myself, had cancer screenings. I think that's something we need to do every year. I think we need to adopt that. It's about $100,000.
Oh, yeah. We can
it
get some
was
of that
the grant.
overtime, we can.
Yeah, yes. But I think it's something, you know, that is a challenge for us. So we also got a grant, you know, speaking of health and wellness, we got a grant for workout equipment for
Mhm.
all the fire stations. So we'll be implementing that this year, and along with that, we're gonna do a health and wellness program to go along with that equipment. But that is always a challenge. Cancer initiative, you know, we're 300% more likely to develop cancer just by what we
So-
do.
Is that something that our wellness center could do?
Yes,
Don't you think?
there's a
Don't y'all
cost.
think?
It's a cost
So
to it.
there's a cost associated to the screening.
I know, but are we paying just for that cost, or we're paying for the people to do it and the respective cost?
We're paying for both on our side.
Yeah, so
because
I'm
we're
saying that we
separate.
can,
But if that's something that they
They
could
can
take
do.
on,
yeah.
that just eliminates the cost, and then you're talking about maybe, I've seen $200 and some per firefighter to, you know, do that blood draw and send it
Yeah.
out to be tested.
That's probably something we need to check into.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask, because I remember I've been to a couple of retirement parties. I've seen firefighters who just retired maybe 2 or 3 years, and they had oxygen tanks.
Mhm.
At the,
Just they see what
no,
I-
no,
it's-
no. I mean, they were,
Really?
yeah. I mean, big oxygen tanks.
Yeah.
They had to tote around because
Yeah.
they were having
Mhm.
respiratory
Yeah,
issues.
I went to a
I guess the
funeral
smoke.
3 weeks
Yeah.
ago. Young female firefighter, she was a captain in the cab.
Oh, I was gonna say here.
Early 50s,
What?
cancer.
Yeah.
And just got a call last week. It was funny because I got sent a picture. There's a picture of these 3 firefighters, Charlene, Shonda, and I forget the most recent, but she passed away. And they were actually sitting together, and they were the second crew. Actually, I'll share it with you.
Mm.
They were second crew to ever have an all-female firefighting crew on one truck in DeKalb County's history.
Mm.
And to see, look at that picture and know that 2 of them have passed away. with
2 of
cancer.
them?
Yeah. What's wrong with my phone?
Let's get that, you wanna check on that?
I'll send an email.
Miss,
I'll send you an email. You and I can create the
With this-
scenario for this
yeah.
record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
actually been
yeah.
talking about it.
Okay,
We've had
let's see
some
if we can get that
conversations
done.
about it, so it's definitely something. We've actually talked about us doing away with it. You know, our occupational health, they're under contract, but we had talked about in the future doing away with ours and just coming into the fold over at the center. Because she says they have a doctor now.
Yes, they have a
Yeah.
position now, that's what
Yeah.
I thought.
In terms of the fleet vehicle action item, I guess that's been resolved. You said you had a conversation with Commissioner Guilfoyle.
I did after it.
And he's,
I think he's good.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. I hope-
Yeah, he was, you know. And we're gonna look, cause one of the things he asked about was to look to see if we were actually saving money.
Yeah.
So we're gonna look at that.
I'll give him a call later today when I get back, just to make sure he's comfortable with that agenda item. Because I think it's on the agenda for tomorrow. I'm not
It
sure.
is, it's on consent. though.
Consent, okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right.
Let's see here.
Oh my goodness, they
Two
look
young-
like kids.
2 young ladies on the outside passed away.
They look like, this must be an old.
That's an old
Oh,
picture,
I was gonna say
yeah,
they look
yeah.
like kids.
Yeah, but they were all on one crew.
Oh my God.
That's pretty, I mean, that's very sad. That's cool that they were,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
but that's really.
And actually, Shonda, who was in the middle, was at the funeral. I saw her.
Oh, my God.
She's
Wow.
retired, but it's
The public is not aware of that.
yeah, cancer is
Mhm.
something that unfortunate reality that we face in this line.
Chief, the relationship with the union.
Mhm.
I know you have put a lot of effort into
Mhm.
improving that relationship.
Mhm.
Do you feel like it is in a good place now? I mean, what's the dynamic?
So I have a particular way I approach labor management, and I pulled that from my mentor, Fire Chief in DeKalb, and I've worked alongside him and how he dealt with the union. Back in DeKalb, we had the union and we had a Black Firefighter Association, and I've watched him navigate those things, and so I brought that same concept here, where we work collaboratively. I've seen the union issues throughout the nation in terms of collective bargaining and all those things. But I just feel like inclusivity is the key. And so early on when I got here, I brought them to the table. It just so much as when I had my swearing in, I went to him and shook his hand, and that in and of itself made a huge difference, you know. And so we meet regularly, you know, they bring issues, we develop things, a lot of these programs, they've been instrumental in helping us put in place. And with unions, there's two things. There's safety, which we should really be doing anyway, and pay. Those are the two issues that they fight about. Safety things that unsafe, and pay. And if you can eliminate one of those things, the second thing we've taken care of last year. So there's really nothing to be at odds about. So I give them a voice. You know, I meet with them regularly. We meet quarterly. They bring me an agenda. I have an agenda for them, you know, and we talk. And that's how I approach it. And so when, you know, the president, when he has an issue, he calls me. You know, I'm there, you know, so.
Who is that president? Is he a
Brigham.
fireman?
Brigham.
He is a fireman.
Uh-huh.
I
He's
thought
a
so.
lieutenant, Station 8. So Henry
I remember
Brigham.
he called that time.
Yeah, he had a lot during Helene about overtime pay for firefighters.
He did, yes,
That's his-
yeah. So you know, a lot of the things that we've implemented are things, again, they're industry best practices. So I'm really ahead of them on a lot of issues, right? That they, as it relates to operational things and things we've been implementing they haven't seen before, but so I really stay ahead of them. We really don't have a whole lot of issues.
I think Chief is being modest. He and I meet every month on our one-on-ones. He talks about all the grants he's applied for, all the training programs, particularly like with the female training initiatives that you implemented as well. So, I mean, I think you have been very innovative.
Yeah, we're gonna, there's another thing we're working on currently is that CPAT, that program. And CPAT is the physical fitness test that candidates go through. I think we lose a lot of people, particularly female firefighters. There's one particular part of that test, it's called a stair climb, where this stair machine, you have to stay on it for a certain amount of time and you can't touch the rails. And I think we lose a lot of good people with just that. And a lot of departments are going away from it. I think we can accomplish the same goal by having them climb the stairs.
Yeah.
And, you know, a firefighter that's going in a burning building or a high-rise building that's going upstairs, they're taking equipment with them. I think it's inconceivable to think that they're not going to grab the handrail. That's just, to
Yeah.
me,
That's
that's just,
just not
you know,
logical.
yeah, if you got tools in your hand and
Yeah.
a high-rise kit and you carrying it up these stairs and you're in full gear, how are you not going to grab the rail? That's just, to me. So we're going to revamp all of that. We're gonna be looking to do that this year, to take CPAT away. I'm actually reaching out to AU and their kinetics department to really look at firefighter fitness and kind of incorporate a new program based on firefighter fitness and well-being, and really develop something different as an interest test. And actually, I was talking to the chief of the city of Decatur, and she's over iWomen, which is a national program. And one of the things she was saying that really stuck with me, we testing these firefighters or potential firefighters on something, we're gonna put them in training class and teach them anyway. Yeah. Why does it have to be that rigorous when we're gonna take them and turn around and teach it to them anyway? So,
And the last thing, I think, as we talk about the SWOT analysis approach, to me, I think your biggest threat from a business standpoint is your revenue model.
mhm.
Is making sure you have a sound, viable
Yeah.
revenue model for your capital needs.
Mhm. Well, see, in that, fire departments aren't typically revenue generating.
But in terms of financing your capital assets,
Yeah.
making sure you have a sound financial model, a source that's viable, whether it be SPOS or through something else, millage. But I do think that's your biggest threat, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you're right, cause it's based largely on property taxes and insurance premiums. That's how we funded those two things, so. Yeah,
All right,
that's
unless y'all have
good.
anything else, y'all have any other?
So I got a question.
Uh-oh, Chief.
What is it that I can do for you? How can I help you?
You know what, Chief, I wish every department head would ask that same question. All I would like for people to do is to operate efficiently and perform their jobs and not expose us to anything that could, ruin our reputation. That's what I would say. I'd ask any department just to do their job. I will say, I agree with, Mr. Jackson, your department, is very thorough. And I think you do a great job, honestly.
Thank you.
I can't say that about everybody, and they know it. I would tell them the same thing. Some of us have to operate better than we've been operating. I think too, you're pretty new to the team, so you have not, I don't know how to say it, not gotten into the way people have been doing things, if you know what I mean. So you came in with your own ideas and how we should do things and how we should look, and you do a lot of research with other agencies. I mean, I heard you say Decatur, I heard you talk about DeKalb.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I know you came from DeKalb,
Yeah.
you still keep in contact and looking at how people do things differently. Some of us have not gotten to that point because, I know it's been a change in leadership and
Yeah.
it's been not, stable.
Yeah,
So I
that's
guess,
a challenge.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge for our firefighters. So 2 years ago, I started taking them to conferences. Some of them, that's the first time they've ever been to a conference. And just,
Your leadership team?
the leadership has been going. I'm
Okay.
talking about the firefighters,
Oh,
the officers.
Yes,
Some of them, they've never gone. So there's two industry conferences. There's FRI and, what's the other one? Fire Rescue International, and the big one that's always in, at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Some of them have never been to that. And so I've been taking them. I have committee meetings that I go to at those, and just to see them come out of that and, open their eyes.
Yeah.
And seeing what other departments and networking with other firefighters.
yeah.
That was something that they had not been exposed to. So on a lower level, our department is just hadn't been exposed to a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they just.
And you come in with a change.
Yeah.
The only thing too, I would like us to look at is the decrease in the overtime. I don't know how possible it is. That's something we have been fighting for years. I've heard, financing them fight about that for years, about the amount of overtime that the fire department gets.
Okay.
Way before my time.
Yeah.
I'm just recalling that.
Yeah, we average 300,000 or 400,000 per year over the budget. Now they offset because we're below that in other areas, so it always offset in that we typically will roll over at least $2 million in the fund balance every year. I think 2023 was about $4 million there was a jump there that we roll over. So we're rolling funds over, but that particular line item is over. Now, every year I suggest increasing that line item, but I guess finance would always offset it. But at the same time, we tend to always roll over money in the fund balance every year. never fails. So definitely a scenario we need to look at.
We have, can I make sure I understand, we have structured fund balance, like what you're talking about, the high, medium, the floating. Is that paid out of overtime?
No, that's paid out of, so you're talking about regular firefighter pay.
Yes. But then the overtime is people, let me rephrase what I'm asking. The reason that we have overtime is when staff have to cover shifts that people are not there for. Is there structured overtime? that
Yeah, so
everybody
it's
has
two
mandatory
things. So
overtime?
it's that, and it's the high cycle, the float pay.
That's okay, that's what I was trying to.
And the larger percent of it, gosh, don't quote me. I think I was in the high 60s, maybe 70% of that is float pay.
So that's like the reason I'm bringing that up, that's a structured,
We can't really do anything about that.
it's part of our pay model,
Yeah.
is to have
Yeah.
that. So the part that's, part of overtime is preventable, if you have adequate staffing, people don't have to work overtime.
Right.
But a lot of their overtime
That part
actually
we
is.
can, we can do that by just having staff. That's a staffing issue. And I think one of the two ways that we're looking at is by having, because only way we increase staffing is through training programs. So instead of doing one a year, let's go to 2 a year, which is what
Yeah.
we're doing this year.
We can't do 3 a year?
That'd be nice.
Oh.
That'd be nice.
Oh.
Now,
I can't say that. I hadn't gotten all the information.
Okay.
think about all of that I've talked about in terms of training. Think about that with just one instructor over there, and that's been for the last decade. They just have
At Augusta Tech?
here
Oh.
in the fire department.
Oh, I thought that Augusta Tech was partnering with y'all.
We partner with them, but we do all the training.
Okay.
They don't
Okay,
do
I thought-
any actual training with us. We
Oh,
do
okay.
all the training.
Okay.
So the partnership is in through their program, but our instructors, fire instructors, we do all the teaching. We teach our own classes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I just say that to say, where we were and where we are now is a stark contrast to.
Well, it is inspiring to hear all the things you say. We've been doing this for 2 years. We started this last year. We're starting this. I mean, there's clearly a lot of activity.
I hadn't even scratched the surface, because
A lot
if
going
you
on.
pull up any of those one-on-ones that we've done, you'll see a whole
I mean,
list
it's like
of,
I believe.
a laundry list of things.
of programs and things that are being done. And don't get me wrong, it's not me, it's not all me, but giving our folks a space to where they can fly. I think is truly important, because we got some talented folks and I'll tell you, when I came here, I had a whole team ready to come with me. And deputy chiefs, my administrator, everything. I had a plan for all of that, and I decided not to do that, to just really focus on the talent that's here.
That's good.
And I didn't bring in any outside deputy chiefs or anything with me. I just worked with what was here now. We got our challenges. We got challenges.
But the thing I like about you, you're very responsive. When you see a defect, you correct it.
Oh, yeah. Now that I'm good at.
I mean, that's
I'm
what-
good at solving
that's
problems.
what management is all about.
I can do it.
Correcting defects.
I just think I'm my own critic. But I
Yeah.
think identifying the gaps ahead of time
Yeah.
is something. Some things escape me that I would like for them not to happen. But it's being able to, as we all do, being able to recognize those gaps ahead of time. I can fix the problem. That's easy. But trying to get it before it happens, that's the challenge.
Great job, Chief.
Yep. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I have 2 action items. I'll follow up with you and Ms. Ruckert
Mhm.
about the cancer screenings and things like that. And then I'll call Commissioner Guilfoyle just to make sure he's good with having the item on consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So Natasha, we
There's
scheduled that meeting
anything
tomorrow
else?
at 9:30.
Okay.
She needs the time, she said.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd like to not have everything,
Gosh, I know as soon as you walk out, I'll think of something. I think we'll do it.
Okay.
Can I see your, training since we,
Yes.
canceled the 1:30? I wanna see the